Okay, today I wanted to make a video discussing iframes. This will be sort of a follow-up video to the previous video that I made that was going over what a hard knockdown and what regular knockdowns are and how they what they look like, how you can tell how they happen. Now, if you haven't watched that video, I would highly suggest watching that one first, as this one contains a lot of knowledge that will be sort of backpacking off of the previous video. Now, what are iframes? Well, iframes are a state where your character is completely invincible to all attacks. Now, this might not be true for some moves. There might be some moves where it's not invincible. It really just depends on like what game and stuff. But in general, iframes in this game mean you are invincible to everything while you are in the iframe. And you can tell when you're in an iframe by doing two things. The first one is you'll have a tiny bit of iframes while you're in a roll. This is what lets you dodge certain attacks, like AFO's Gamma. Messed it up there. I'm hoping he does Gamma hold. But this is how you are able to dodge like certain attacks in this game. It's because of the iframes that are on roll right there. Because roll has iframes, you're able to do that effect right there. Now, the other form of iframes tend to occur most commonly after receiving a knockdown or hard knockdown effect. Now, on GP, when you get knocked back by a skill, you will gain iframes when the game forces you to do your auto wake up. There will still be a window before the auto wake up where you do not have iframes, and this is what allows certain combos to connect. If you noticed there, my character would flash white during the iframes. That is how you can tell whether you or an opponent has iframes or not. Now, another way that iframes can happen is through like hard knockdowns or by touching the ground. Hard knockdowns, I explained earlier, will bypass GP in needing to do this, but both of them will cause you to have to touch the ground in some form of capacity.
I won't let you.
I will attempt to showcase it now. When you touch the ground, you will have iframes while you are on the ground and during your wake up.
Not yet.
As soon as you touch the ground, you are invincible to all damage. There is a bug that has been in the game for quite a while where very rarely you won't appear on the ground on your enemy's screen, which will allow them to hit you. And it's very weird, but it seems to be fairly like rare and not something you'll need to worry about too much. In short, this will generally work about 99% of the time. You will be able to get iframes from touching the ground. Most commonly done after like knockdowns of stuff, but there are a few other moves that like can do it too. Now, about iframes, there are a few different rulings that iframes have. And this is where I will showcase how to abuse iframes more. When you are in an iframe, there are several actions that will immediately end your iframe. And those actions include Alpha, Beta, Gamma, and your melees, as well as air melee. And, depending on the character, special action. I say depending on the character because some characters' special action actually don't end iframes, and I will mention those shortly. But all of those actions will end your iframes earlier than what the flashing white would expect, and it would like stop. Additionally, picking up items will also end it, and I do believe attempting to use a heal, like using a healing item, will also end it. The startup animation for that I do believe also ends it. However, using a card effect does not. You can still remain in an invincible state during the card effect, like by activating the card effect like during your invincible state, For example, if you were to activate like a green card while you're invincible, you would get the healing from it, and you would not be able to take damage until your iframes ended naturally, or you canceled them by doing some other action. Now, when you are in an iframe state, you can still run, you can still sprint, you can still jump, and you can still climb. You can still do a lot of your basic movement abilities, but you are not able to do like any sort of action to like run away while keeping your iframes intact. As by simply clicking gamma, my iframes would end. I will attempt to showcase that now with Kirishima.
Not yet.
Notice how the flashing white ended immediately there. I will switch to a character that perhaps isn't as bright to make it a bit more obvious when the change actually occurs. I'll go to twice.
Damn. Drive safely.
Upon starting an action, your iframes will immediately end. This allows you to be hit by certain combos that wouldn't hit against an opponent that simply does nothing. For example, if we take Ida's Alpha Beta and you did this,
Strike.
if the opponent did their wake up and then did another action that does not have armor, you would technically be able to do something like that and land it on them. Now, of course, because this carry is not on GP, he didn't do the auto wake up, so I will attempt to re-showcase it.
Strike.
Something like that might work against an opponent who immediately does their wake up into an action, because they would lose all of their iframes immediately upon doing that action. However, you cannot control if they do this or if they don't do this. So this means that a lot of combos in this game are kind of just like free flow. They kind of don't work necessarily. Like, there's still the true stuff, but you can't do Ida, Alpha, Beta, all that, and then true combo it every time into another full combo, like how some of these clips you might see do, because the iframes only work that way if the opponent lets it work that way. Additionally, that also leads into a great point on how you can abuse this. If you're getting hit by a skill, you can simply abuse your iframes to get to a position that's more favorable before doing your risky action or your mobility away. Instead of simply doing instant wake up, which can be easily countered by a lot of good players. In recent years, it has become a very common strategy for opponents to cover the wake up action with stuff like their alphas or like AoE attacks. This is because a majority of players actually end up immediately doing wake up into an action to immediately burn their iframes. And it makes like doing certain attacks right here against most players, an alpha there would probably connect because they'd probably do their own action in some sort. Now you can abuse this by like reverse engineering this knowledge. Knowing that people will be going for that, you can, instead of doing an immediate action to try and escape, you can simply wait a moment, bait out the attack. And like if I'm full bullet and I'm like trying to catch your wake up with beta, you could use the iframes to bait out the beta, and then as soon as the beta ends, you can use the ending lag to escape. Now this of course applies to many different characters in many different ways, and something I can't really explain too easily in a video, but you are able to abuse this to get away from characters that might seem very difficult to get away from at first. Kirishima, I would say, is probably the biggest example of this. Since none of his moves combo, they all trigger iframes, and they all have like very like short ranges to them. So if you were hit by a Kirishima's attack, let's say beta, instead of immediately doing another action, which results in you eating another beta. You could just sit there. So if he spams the third beta, that it won't connect, and then after that beta, you can use the ending lag to escape. Of course, other characters, they suffer from this too. Just, you'll have to learn how to abuse iframes like that, little on your own. And you'll have to figure out, like, what characters, like, what their windows and timings are and all that. Like, All Might, for example, I'll do a quick, like, intro on him. A lot of All Might players, when they land beta, will either go up for another beta, or just go for alphas after the beta. Now this is normally something that is quite difficult to counter for a lot of people, as it covers not doing a wake up, which is the second most common option against people, and it immediately covers doing a wake up action. But you know what it doesn't cover? Wake up nothing. I will activate GP recovery in order to force him to do the wake up. I can't do anything to him for a good amount of time. He could then use that to make a play, like a mix-up of some sort, to escape, or get some damage off on me. There are multiple different applications of this that you'll simply have to learn throughout playing the game. Now, on to the characters who kind of bypass the ruling for the iframes. The iframes, like how your special actions and stuff will cancel them. The first one who does this is actually Endeavor. This is not something that was very well known for a while, but Endeavor is capable of ignoring it with his special action. Notice how I was still glowing there? I'd be flying away while still remaining invincible during the flight until it naturally wears off. Now this only applies to the air sprint version of the attack, or the move, as the jump does end your iframes. It is only using this version of the move that doesn't prevent your iframes, or that doesn't prevent losing of your iframes. Now the second character who does this is actually Hawks. Now I feel this one's probably a bit better well known, because Hawks is so common right now. But Hawks, same thing. His special action, he is able to fly away while maintaining his iframes. And this can make him quite hard to pick up the kill. Now if he does beta, he will of course lose his iframes immediately, and be able to be punished for that. But if Hawks has special action charged, and he gets hit by an attack that would cause him to have iframes, he essentially gets a free escape with nobody being able to touch him. I hope this has changed at some point, but it's likely not, since these two moves are likely classified as air sprint and not an attack. And since sprinting doesn't lose your iframes, neither would air sprint. Alright, I think that's about all to say on iframes personally. There are, like, just keep in mind that a majority of people will do something very along the lines of this after getting attacked. Immediately burning their iframes in an attempt to escape, or try to make some sort of distance. Some people will even do an attacking move instead. Keep in mind that you can punish this very easily by simply going for a move on where they would be going, and using the lingering hitbox to hit them if they go for an instant wake up move like that. However, this, as I said earlier, can be punished. If I were to sit here, wait out the attack, and then attack back, or in Bakugo's case, realistically probably run here, then yeah, that's a mix-up. That's how you would want to probably escape against a lot of people. A lot of people who do this. Alright, feel free to ask any questions in the comment section. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this guide.